So without further ado, Ethan, uh, in under 1 minute, how about you introduce yourself to the student body?
Okay, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Milich. I'm a political science major at Brooklyn College. I'd like to first start off by saying thank you to Ryan and Kiara for having this virtual town hall amongst all these this crazy crisis that's happening. I'd also like to shout out the essential workers that are around and say thank you to them. And my sincere condolences to the Brooklyn College community and anyone who has lost someone or is suffering throughout this pandemic. But I am, yes, currently running for the president of the undergraduate student government at Brooklyn College. In addition, I am running for delegate to University Student Senate. The reason I think I would make the best president is because I have an incredible and diverse team. I think that we have the most progressive and robust platform. And finally, it's just that I have a deep-rooted drive and commitment to make the undergraduate student government as best as it possibly can be, and to make our community at Brooklyn College amazing, especially coming back from this terrible pandemic. You know, our slogan is moving BC forward, and I think that is what really speaks about what our entire platform's about.
All right, so I'll get into the questions. First question. There's a lot of issues plaguing CUNY and Brooklyn College community as a whole, coronavirus being the largest one at the moment. But one of the other large issues that we have are these yearly tuition hikes. How do you plan to address those yearly tuition hikes as USG president?
Yes, so as USG president, I definitely plan on using all of the connections at our disposal. So I'm going to be, first of all, we're going to be setting up movement to demonstrate and act against the tuition hikes. I mean, I myself have been an advocate of higher education for a long time, and I've worked very, very hard to fight against tuition hikes. Part of that includes communicating to board members, who are the ones who actually approve it at the end of the year. So we're going to be trying to mobilize students and have them, I mean, now it's going to be a little harder to mobilize them in person, but hopefully we can virtually mobilize people to show up to the Board of Trustees meeting and fight super hard to relay our concerns and fight on behalf of students to stop this ridiculous tuition hike when we're literally facing a global pandemic. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be $200 or $220 for a tuition hike, and also a $100 mental health fee. And I think those fees are absolutely ridiculous at a time like now. We need full state investment, and whether it be fighting for full state investment from Cuomo and the government, or fighting to stop the Board of Trustees from approving another tuition hike, our government is going to be there. The USG is going to be standing in like as strong as we can against those things from happening. So that's a big part of what our administration will bring.
Just very minor correction I want to make for anyone in the audience. The wellness fee is $120 and the tuition hike is $200, which adds up to $320. This is just me being very pedantic. Don't.
Yes, thank you, Kiara. No, that's true. I actually, when I was saying it, I knew I was wrong, but I knew I had the total right, but I knew I had the numbers wrong. But thank you for that.
It's fine. It's $320. Okay. It's still $320 more than we should be paying, in my opinion. All right. So obviously you've talked about your connection to just higher education advocacy in general, but I'm curious what groups, however you'd like to define that, are involved with your campaign, and what groups have you been involved with more generally?
Right. Okay. So there's been no actual student groups that can be involved with our campaign, especially directly, because that's like a new rule that Quirk put out at our school. So I've got no like direct support from any clubs. However, I myself have been very heavily involved with, USS is probably the biggest one that people recognize me from. And USS is one of the largest advocates for, like before you were talking about tuition hikes, they're one of the biggest advocates against tuition hikes. And there's also groups like NIPERG. There's also the CUNY Rising Alliance, which has a bunch of different groups amongst it. And it's all those groups that can work together to achieve goals such as like freezing tuition, which is a very common goal. But I think under these circumstances and with that type of coalition with all those groups, it can happen.
All right. So we talked about getting involved, and 6% of the undergraduate population voted in last year's USG election, and that was actually a really large turnout in the past. And as of right now, there are only 5 people running for USG Senate, which would leave in the fall, I think, 21 seats vacant. How would you plan to increase student involvement in student government?
That is a great question. Okay, so one of my 4 platform pillars is actually to make a more inclusive and accessible USG. And so in many different ways, like, because it's not only a matter of having enough students participating, but it's also by having those students be representative of the Brooklyn College community. So part of what we want to do with making USG more accessible is by working to increase diversity and equity amongst our students. And then, but a big part of what we also want to do is a USG growth plan, and that would include using like metric-based strategies. So I think that, like, obviously social media is a big thing, but if we can also go online and use even advertised like promotions and pay some of the money to actually promote USG and the resources of USG, that could be very beneficial. And we're going to work really, really hard to make sure that we reach to every single undergraduate student so that they do know what USG is and that they do feel comfortable not only like coming to our events, but also joining USG itself. I've worked very, very hard to like show how great USG is, and I've talked to like hundreds of students trying to bring them in and motivate them. There is a culture at USG. There's a culture of it's hard to make changes and be part of the things that are happening. But that's where, like, I think us going into USG as the leaders and the representatives, we really need to make that culture strong and welcome in new people. I also want to communicate with clubs and collaborate with clubs and have like weekly forums that can invite students in, learn about what USG is, and also they can get a chance to learn about the clubs that are at that forum as well. So there's many different ways to make students learn about USG, but like I said, I've got a specific growth plan that uses metrics to really understand how we can make it bigger. And I'm hoping by the end of the year, I'm hoping by the next time there's an election, every single position will have every single position will have a candidate for it.
Can I ask, and this doesn't include in the time, what do you mean by metrics?
So, metrics, on social media, you can see metrics because you can see views, you can see likes, and you can see all sorts of like metrics, but you can also use like email-based strategies and surveys, and you can also use different things in order to like really achieve the growth you want. So it's also a matter of deciding on goals, and then once you pick your goals, then you can work to achieve those goals. And so that's also very important that we get in office first, talk about what the situation is, learn more about the situation, and then decide where we're going to go from there.
All right.
Bling. Okay. So we've talked about I'm thinking of the word involvement from the student government side, but I think we should shift our discussion now to involvement from the side of the regular average student, because I'm sure that you've heard the complaint. There's a sense that there's no sense of community. We're a commuter campus, like students just go to class and then they leave. So how do you plan on bolstering a school spirit if you become USG president?
Okay, so that is another wonderful question. Another one of our 4 platform pillars is actually fostering BC student empowerment. And so, of course, part of that empowerment would be to encourage students and teach them about what USG is. But not every student can engage with the undergraduate student government. So what we plan to do is a lot of other sorts of things that definitely increase school spirit, as well as just engagement with your campus and engagement with Brooklyn College. And so the first idea that we've had was for a concert. Now, obviously with COVID circumstances, we have to figure out when that would take place. We're looking for the spring. We're thinking of a spring welcome back concert with certain like hygiene and health practices in place to make sure that it's safe. But otherwise, a concert would be really great and empowering students to come back and meet each other. We also want to throw many community events that engage with the community and different clubs on campus. We also want to have a unity summit that actually brings together different culture clubs and different people from different groups on campus, and we try to negotiate what we really feel speaks to what we all believe here on campus and push that as a principle. But the great thing about empowerment is that it's also not a matter of like what you're doing, but it's about like why you're doing it. So I think that one of the biggest things that will empower students is by working towards sustainability. A lot of students come to Brooklyn College, they have their regular life. But then I think if they see that this school is actually pushing for sustainability measures and trying to become the solution and not the problem, that might bring their spirit up and make them feel more like comfortable, like more happy about coming to this type of campus. And there's other like more tangible ways to empower students, such as voter awareness. If we can actually get a lot of students registered to vote and actually showing up to the polls and aware of who their electeds are, that's also another really great way we can like push for government like laws and change in our society to make for investment in education. And of course, sanctuary campus. I think that like there's many students here who are immigrants, and then like regardless of what your citizenship status is or immigration status, you should be treated as if you're a regular student. And so that's what those are the ways we're going to try to empower the students at Brooklyn College.
All right. Somewhat of a hard shift here. Given that 2020 is an election year, and if you're elected USG president, you'll be taking into office just about as the real presidential election really gets to a fever pitch. How do you think national politics play a role in student government?
Okay, there's a lot of different ways. I think the most important way right now is considering the COVID crisis and how much money New York State gets as like a federal bailout from the federal government, and then that money can in turn go to New York City or go to CUNY and then go to the CUNY campuses and then come to Brooklyn College, right? So money is a big factor when it comes to like federal politics. But past that though, because we're going to try to get as much money as we can and use it effectively. But past that, though, I am always fighting, and what I'm hoping that this government will always fight for is more investment in higher education. So, and whether that comes from the city, the state, or the federal government, that doesn't matter. For instance, one of the candidates, Bernie Sanders, was actually pushing for a free college platform point, and that I think is brilliant and speaks to the principle that we fight for and we believe in, which is quality education is a right for all. That's a fundamental principle that we believe in and that we want to fight for. And so that if that aligns with national candidates or national platforms or parties, that's great. And we're happy to like maybe collaborate with those parties or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's about the principles, and that's what we're fighting on. And these principles are at all scales. So we're always going to fight for those principles.
Okay, so we've mentioned COVID just sort of tangentially with the festival that you planned being canceled, but this actually might be a recurring issue because there is some speculation that COVID might be seasonal, that we might see a recurrence of it in the fall, in which case classes would once again have to go online. So in this nightmare scenario where coronavirus comes back and all courses go online, how would you achieve your administration's goals remotely?
Right. So if you actually look at all 4 of the platform points of our campaign, which is more inclusive and accessible USG, free and fully funded CUNY, fostering BC student empowerment, and helping students navigate the COVID-19 crisis, all 4 of those platform points can technically be worked on and achieved remotely. Students can be empowered remotely. We can still advocate and promote a free and fully funded CUNY. We can still make the institution of USG more inclusive and accessible. And of course, we will always constantly, even now as a campaign, we will always be helping students navigate this COVID-19 crisis. So, I mean, as you break down those pillars and look at each individual goal, some are a little less tangible. So we can't necessarily have a spring concert, maybe a virtual version or something of the sort. But I mean, that might be a little harder to accomplish, but all of the other main pillars of what we stand for, of our cause, can be achieved, and we will continue working on them because it stands for the same thing: advocating for students, fighting for what's the principles that we believe in, helping, like, serving students and helping them navigate these terrible times. So it's really just a matter of like the focus and the effort you put into it. And as you can see with the campaign that we've been pushing hard with the campaign virtually. So it's the same thing with running administration. You just have to do it virtually. You have to be cognizant, you have to be aware, you have to work really hard, and you have to be communicative. And that's a big thing we need to see from the president, right? Because the president needs to be on social media, on the internet every day, needs to be sending emails, needs to be working with their team to communicate as much as possible and help the students. So yeah, I mean, I would really not like it. I would be very upset if the fall semester was then moved to online distance learning, but that's okay even then, because we will adapt and we will overcome and we'll work hard to serve the students. So that's where we stand there.
All right. Sticking on the topic of coronavirus, the campus administration has been doing what it can to help students during this. How do you feel about the administration response, not just from Brooklyn College, but from CUNY as a whole? And do you think anything is lacking from that response?
Okay, so I think overall, CUNY's doing okay. I think that there's a lot going on. I think they've done some things that are very upsetting and that they should not have done at all. But I mean, overall though, I think that like the bureaucracy, or at least the workers of CUNY are working hard. The faculty is working hard. The administrators are organized and working hard. The chancellery, like I said, I got some issues. The board, I've got some issues. But then when it comes, but CUNY overall, like, I think we can, as students, we can still hope to steer CUNY in the right direction going forward. But then when it comes to Brooklyn College and President Michelle Anderson, I think that she's doing an outstanding job. I think Brooklyn College started off pretty good, actually. Like, Brooklyn College has almost always been on point from at least from what I've seen, from who I've talked to. It's hard either way. Like, it's hard. It's going to be hard to dissect information, disseminate information, and get it to the students. But I think President Michelle Anderson is actually doing phenomenal. She sends emails like every week. They're super informative and helpful. And also she's been doing Instagram lives that have been very informative. So she's really on it. She really cares, like you could tell, and she's working hard. And we all really, really appreciate that completely. And also her staff and the workers of Brooklyn College, remote or the essential workers who are there. It is amazing work. And I'm very, very proud of what Brooklyn College has done so far. And with CUNY, we just got to keep holding them accountable. We just got to keep trying to identify issues, because that's a big problem too, is that issues pop up very quickly that we've noticed. So as long as we stay alert and we identify those issues quickly and we address them and we stand on the principle that we need to be taking care of our students and that education is a right, quality education is a right, I think that we should be fine.
All right. Would you like to go into some of the gripes you have with them, CUNY Central's response, or?
Sure, absolutely.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. They recently passed a student activity fee refund, which at this point in the semester is a very small amount of money, and it actually it negatively impacts a lot of the student groups and student activities throughout all the campuses. And so I just find that that was more of a political move, and it was super rapid, and they didn't get any student response for that at all. And also the biggest one that should be noted is that they're still going to push for a tuition hike, and we can still stop it. We still just need to speak up. We need to share petitions, and we just need to stop them from continuing that, which I think they might still do. So we have to fight against that.
All right. Okay. So obviously we've talked to you for stories plenty of times about USG and USS stuff. One of those stories actually made the rounds on social media recently. This was from November when we spoke, and you said you had resigned from your vice presidential position in USG, and you had made a comment to the extent of, there are others out there much more enthused and excited and could make a bigger impact, which is your quote from November. I assume that this has changed in the interim, but I am wondering, and I suppose this is a fair question, why shouldn't students expect a repeat of last year, where your duties in USG and USS conflicted and you ended up resigning from your position?
Great question. I wouldn't say that it was because my duties from both those positions conflicted. I never implied that. I just think that one of the duties from one of the positions had its own problems that I had to take into account, that I decided to resign. Like I just decided to make the decision to resign from. And so you're right. You said it before that yes, the circumstances have changed. I did, because one thing that you must know about me is that I'm upfront about what I'm able to commit and bring to the table and how much I'm willing to serve. And and I'm always honest about that. And so up until the point where I was feeling that I couldn't serve anymore, I was 100% expecting to go for the full year. And you can't say that I haven't served for full terms of service, because I have with both CLAS representative on 2 different terms, and then of course as a USS delegate for 2 terms. So as for as long as I held those positions, to the end of the term rather. And so I've held positions for a long time. I've worked very hard in service to student government and to the students of CUNY. And so the fact that like I've stated that I wasn't enthused or I wouldn't make the best impact at that time for that position in those circumstances after a very toxic and drawn out election with, interesting people. And then also, of course, after the consequences of that, which in turn caused a lot of other resignations and a lot of concerns for what our mission was in student government, where I decided to take a step back and continue in my role as USS delegate, continuing to serve students. But then I also decided that, I'll take a step back from USG. I can't make as much of an impact as I wanted to. But now in this situation, I'm realizing I'm going to school for another year. I'm eligible, and I decided that I want to run for president because now, hopefully with the role of president, and with with an awesome team and an amazing platform, I think that I can make the difference as president now. So yes, that was a different circumstance. Many different things were happening, and I think that we all remember a lot of the things that were pretty toxic and interesting from last year that shouldn't usually happen in a student government election, or any student's student government experience should not be like the way it was for anybody last year. So I did what I had to do. I reserved myself for a little bit, and then I rebounded mentally, and I came back to serve, and I'm here to serve as president as hard as I can, the best that I can.
All right. What separates you from your opponent?
Opponents, plural.
Opponents, right. So I believe I touched on it a little bit, but throughout this town hall, I've touched on it. But the biggest thing I find is my team. I think my team is amazing. I think that they are diverse. I think they're all progressive, and they all have something unique to bring. They all have their different experiences in the Brooklyn College community as students, and they all have brilliant ideas that they want to bring to the table. So I'm really excited to work with the team. That's the best thing I have that makes our campaign stand out. Followed by our platform. We have the most progressive and robust platform. There's no question about that. We were the first ones to say free and fully funded CUNY, and we were the first ones to say that for a while. And we have actually a very tangible way of at least fighting for it in the best possible way, going forward. And we just have a really thoughtful platform that thinks about things in different ways, because we have where we want to make USG more inclusive and accessible. That's USG, but not everyone's part of USG. So we also want to focus on the students from college who might not be part of USG. So that would be fostering the student empowerment, right? And then of course, with what's happening currently and with our circumstances today, helping students navigate COVID-19 is an essential part of our platform that I haven't seen so much thought in the other platforms that have been presented. So we really we stand out. We stand out with our team. We stand out with our platform. And then there's something to be said about me and my personal commitment to serving in student government and making changes that I believe in and that I think the students believe in. So I've definitely, as you've seen, I've served for many years now. And I've made very tangible, very substantial changes in student government that have been beneficial and helpful. And I've tried to really demonstrate my values and what I stand for. So and I will continue doing that. So that is what I think, and those are the things that really I think make me stand out, make our campaign stand out from the others.
All right. Final question, and this is going to be about the hardest issue, the most serious thing that you can possibly imagine. Ryan's already fine. All right. So, assuming that you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Okay, I've been asked this a couple times in my life. See, time travel is easy, but I would have to probably go with teleportation. Because then I could just make moves. I can get to one place to another. I can talk to people who I need to talk to. And I'm much better with in-person conversations. Anyway, actually with COVID-19, I'm not sure if that's going to work actually. But I guess I'll have to think about that. But right now it's going to have to be teleportation.
All right.
Now imagining a supervillain whose life objective is to spread COVID-19 to everyone. so they just teleport into people's houses and just cough on them.
Well, what about a hero who can jump to house and tell people to stay home? That's another option.
That would be.
I'll give you 1 minute in closing.
Okay. So again, thank you, Ryan, Kiara. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with this platform. I think that we have an amazing campaign, that has many different parts to it that are great, such as a diverse and progressive team. We have a very inclusive and empowering platform. And I think that I have this personal commitment to this role that I don't think anybody else has. So I'm super excited. I really, really hope that, the students see what I see and believe in what we have to offer and place their votes for me and my team. I'm very excited. I can't wait. I really hope, and I also hope that everyone's okay and everyone deals with this crisis, has their own way of dealing with this crisis going forward. And we're all there for each other. We're all family. We're all Brooklyn College students. We're all family. We're all Bulldogs. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens.
All right. That will bring it to a close. I want to remind anyone that's watching, you can watch on BC Webcentral. You can vote on BC Webcentral from Monday, May 4th to Wednesday, May 6th. And I implore you to do so.